Today on the Daniel Baldwin Show, Trump, Putin, everyone's talking about it. Coming at you right now. Good morning, everyone, and it is Monday, the 18th of August. That's right, the 18th of August. Where is the purple sand, baby? Let us not forget the purple sand. That's my hourglass. I let it run. Here's my coffee, all my props, all my stuff, everything I need. And my research pages. Go over them at night, go over them again in the morning. Then I mark them with yellow marker. Then I look at it a little more carefully. I come up with some of the greatest pontifications in the history of podcasting, and I bring it to you. From me to you, so you can go ahead and drive your car and go the rest of your day going, what the hell was Baldwin talk about? Then by the time you get home that night and eat dinner, you go, you know what Daniel Baldwin said today? And it's true. It's right. It's what happened. It's what everyone's afraid to say. They're afraid to tell you what I tell you because what I tell you is true and it's not part of the machine. It's outside the box and it's coming at you right now, baby. Washington. Russia's Vladimir Putin agreed at his summit with President Trump to allow U.S. and its European allies to offer Ukraine a security guarantee resembling NATO's collective defense mandate as part of the eventual deal to end the 3.5-year war in Ukraine. Special U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff said Sunday. So, everyone's talking about Alaska. Everyone's talking about this meeting coming up right now, and poor Ukraine. Poor Ukraine. That's not the facts. Try for a minute, although I denounce Russia attacking the Ukraine. I denounce the killing that's been going on both sides. War is terrible. It should not have happened. It never would have happened if Trump was president. Never. It happened under weak-ass Biden, and they wanted it to happen. So let me explain. First of all, when it comes to gas, oil, wheat, and all kinds of other products, there's a huge amount of money that comes out of the Ukraine. A huge amount of money. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. The business of war, which we are selling arms and we are selling supplies, and we are selling planes and helicopters and all kinds of things to the Ukraine to protect them from big bad Russia. Quick history lesson. Again, I'm not saying what Putin did was necessary or correct, but let me make sure you understand what happened. There was a president that was a two-term president of the United States. I'll say that his name rhymes with Finton. Yes, you got it right, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton made a deal that said the Ukraine would never, we would never move east of the few countries that we invited into NATO, that we last under Clinton invited into NATO. So why would Putin, why would Russia be fearful that the Ukraine would be invited into NATO? Why? Because the Ukraine and Russia share a border. If we were to take Ukraine into NATO, which Zelensky wants, we would have planes, we would have tanks, and we would have troops right in the Ukraine on the border of Russia. Putin, to protect his own people and his own interests, could not allow that. The last three times, that the Ukraine, or rather that Russia has been invaded or occupied or troops have come over the border, all three times they came through the Ukraine. 3 times in a row, when the enemy came, they came through the Ukraine onto Russian soil. Do you really think that Putin and the Russians want Americans, or anybody else for that matter, troops, right on their border, poised and ready to attack or do whatever they plan on doing? Now, of course, we would never do that. What would we promised them, we guaranteed them under Clinton, the Ukraine would never become a NATO property. We would never allow NATO to come in. We would never entertain the idea of NATO coming in. And now he's petrified that they're going to put planes, helicopters, troops, tanks, armaments, missiles, bullets, soldiers, all on the border of Russia via the Ukraine, which we promised we wouldn't do. So Clinton and his administration lied. They did not hold up their end of the bargain. And so to save from becoming a NATO country, he made the poor choice, Putin, of invading the Ukraine and going in and provoking them and starting a war. I don't agree with that tactic. I don't think that that was the best way to go. But guess what? We lied to them, we pushed them, we did all kinds of things to them to put them in a terrible corner, and this is how they responded. So I would say to you that's listening right now, we're getting all this heat about how the president of the United States is meeting with this invader, this war criminal, he's wanted in other countries and blah, blah, blah. And yet there's been no attention paid to the fact that every treaty and every promise that was made to these people and this president and Russia has been broken. So I don't know exactly how. I would have to really analyze it to come up with some type of remedy for the problem. But I believe he did it out of desperation because he was fearful of the fact that he was now going to be the neighbor of what he deemed as unfriendly and hostiles towards him and his country. So, but no one's talking about that. You didn't know that, did you? Okay. Russia seeks to end the war in Ukraine by securing international recognition of its territory gains, including Crimea and 4th southeastern regions, and by ensuring Ukraine's neutrality and demilitarization. Specifically, Russia demands that Ukraine recognize these territories as part of Russia and commit to no joining NATO. Now, I would say that that is the number one. They've been in Crimea now since 2014. That's Russia now. So I don't know, is there some problem with Ukraine acknowledging that that's Russia now, that that's a Russian territory? Did the Ukraine think that they were going to go to the bargaining table and get that back 10 years later? I don't know. It doesn't look like that's coming. I think there's a lot of facts that people need to understand about the Ukraine. Let me read this again. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Sunday that we are not at a precipice of a peace agreement after President Trump's Alaska summit with Russian leader Vladimir Putin ended without a deal and Russia's war in the Ukraine. So I'm listening to all these, of course, Trump failed to make a deal. You know what's so funny? There's a war going on there. Like millions of people's lives have been lost. I mean, it's an awful, awful, bloody confrontation. He has brought peace in Thailand and Cambodia. He's brought peace in Pakistan and India that both had nuclear weapons. He's brought peace in multiple countries that have been 3-decade-long wars on and off in Africa. So he has one meeting in Alaska and they didn't come to an agreement, which, by the way, the third party, the second party in the war, Zelensky and the Ukraine, were not in attendance. I believe Trump thought it would be more productive to meet him alone. And this is not like if you Google, did Biden ever meet with Putin? Biden saw Putin at a big meeting, a big conference in Switzerland, but he never had trips that he went specifically to go on our home turf and had Putin over here to see him. Putin couldn't stand Biden. Biden was super ineffective in anything to do with world peace or whatever. Donald Trump will win the Nobel Peace Prize this year. He's brought peace to regions of the world that have been decade-long wars. I mean, just because he didn't come up with a deal in the first meeting, they're going to go meet again. And they'll meet again, and they're on the phone, and they're doing stuff. And if the Ukraine has to make sanctions, has to give up property, has to, whatever they have to do, and I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying, if that's what they need to do to save Ukrainian lives, the picture being painted of the Ukraine, I have a friend that's a developer that is now in the opposite region in the mountains from where the war is taking place on the Soviet border. And they're building one of the most comprehensive, beautiful ski resorts that is state-owned and run in the Ukraine. They're going to spend billions of dollars. So the government is going to spend billions of dollars on a worldwide renowned, amazing ski resort. But they're borrowing billions of dollars because of the terrible situation with the big bad wolf of Russia attacking our boys. But you have billions of dollars to build a ski resort. That seems a little odd, doesn't it? Doesn't that seem a little strange? I know people that are there working on it. So it's not a myth. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. There are so many levels to the deceit and to the lies of what's going on in Ukraine on both sides. On both sides. Please don't, like I'm trying to be left or right or Trump or Biden or Russia or Ukraine. I'm not trying to be anybody. I'm just telling you stuff that's going on. Let me tell you a little more. Donald Trump has said the Ukrainian president can end the war if he wants to, but there will be no going into NATO by the Ukraine as part of the peace deal. Hours before he was due to host Zelensky at the White House, Trump also said there would be no getting back the Crimean Peninsula, which Moscow illegally annexed in 2014, 8 years before launching its full-scale invasion. So, do you think Trump is making those judgments or those decisions? No. He's relaying what he's getting, his intel. He has people that are direct to the president of Russia, just as the president of Russia knows exactly where Donald Trump is. No courtroom, ha-ha! You didn't realize I had a witness that was hiding under the stairwell that saw the whole thing. No, that's not the case. That's not the case. They talk all the time. They talk through liaisons that they trust. And so Trump came right out. And again, you're just not used to that. We're not used to having a president say, hey, by the way, you're not going to get that land back and you're not getting into NATO. You're not. So that's a deal breaker. He won't end the war unless you agree to at least those two. Now, everything after that is going to be, a negotiation. We'll see where we go. We'll see what happens. Let's see what we can get. Maybe a series of meetings. Maybe we meet, no one's going to meet in Russia and probably no one's going to meet in the Ukraine. So, I wouldn't if I was Zelensky. And if I was Putin, who's wanted as a war criminal, supposedly because of what he did, there's a lot of places he can't go. So it limits to where we can go, but we could all get together in a place like Switzerland or something like that. Or maybe we just get together on Zoom. Who knows? But a couple of things that Trump put out there were deal breakers for Russia. Why not make that known up front? Why do you criticize the president for telling what he knows? Most of the time because you don't want someone to know what the president knows. Now I want to tell you a little bit more about this Zelensky character, okay? So I, if you can't tell, am not a huge proponent of his. Yes, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky had a prior career as a comedian and actor. He starred in a popular television series, Servant of the People, in which he portrayed a fictional Ukrainian president. This show, which aired from 2015 to 19, gained immense popularity. So, he wasn't a politician at all. It wasn't like we're going to point out Ronald Reagan or we're going to point out even Trump, who was a huge business person or whatever. This guy played the Ukrainian president on the most popular TV show in 2019. A year later, 2 years later, he's president of the Ukraine with no credentials that would make him the leader. It felt, I'm not saying I know this. I'm not saying that I have people that have told me they know this. I've heard a lot of opinions of high-ranking people that have said they placed him in this audience, in this job rather. They took him because the people loved him so much and they placed a puppet where they wanted him. So I don't know how many decisions he really makes. I'm sure that he's had more power as time has gone on and his popularity surged, which, by the way, it is no longer surging. He is no longer the popular president that you think. Presidential elections were scheduled to be held in Ukraine in March or April of 2024. However, as martial law has been in effect since 24 February, 22 in response to the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, no elections were held because Ukrainian laws does not allow presidential elections to be held when martial law is in effect. So, the country goes to war. All the people that are very much against how they're handling the war, that they're in a war, many people who no longer have the same opinion of the Ukrainian president that they did after they watched the last episode of his TV show. So conveniently, he instills martial law on the people of the Ukraine. And now there is no election. So he's tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. So could you imagine with the number of people that love Trump and the number of people that hate Trump, If he decided, because there was a law that said he's going to put in martial law and there will be no election in 2028. Can you imagine the revolution? Can you imagine how crazy people would go, how they would be, what the press would do with that? That the president has instilled martial law and he cannot be removed right now as president. They can't have another election. He just gets to stay in office. I think you can all imagine how angry people in our country would be if that happened. And yet, no one's saying anything about this guy being president of the Ukraine, knowing that he's gone from like a 70-something% popularity down to below 50 now. People don't like the way he's handling it. People have seen now firsthand that it was a TV series, not the actual man that has the kind of clout and the kind of persona to go into a room and negotiate with a Putin or a Trump or other powerful world leaders. This guy is an actor. Now, that doesn't mean an actor couldn't be president. Hint, hint, hint. But in as far as being put in a position to do some of the things that Zelensky has allowed happen in his country. Let me give you one last rocket lesson. Just think about this now, because this is a fact. We've taken over $300 billion. Listen, $300 billion. Imagine what you do with $1 million. Imagine 10, 100, 10 100s, 1 billion, 10 100 piles. $100 million piles 10 times is $1 billion. This is $300 billion in aid to the Ukraine due to the invasion from Russia. Okay. So we take taxpayers' money, you and I pay our taxes in April, and we send that check in. And they're taking $300 billion that could go towards, God forbid we went towards veterans, men and women that have paid the ultimate price, their families when someone doesn't make it home at all. What about their kids? What about a college fund for their kids? How about helping that mom out with groceries being higher right now? How about we help them out with some gas? How about we help them out with their rent? The breadwinner of that family is not there anymore to take care of his family because he gave his life for our country and for our freedom. Excuse me. We don't owe that family anything. We owe $300 billion to Zelensky and the boys and girls, which, by the way, it's awful what's going on over there, but we're just buying them arms and buying them tanks and buying them bullets and bombs. We're buying them those bombs to kill little young kids in Russia, boys and girls. So our tax dollar is paying to murder young children, kids, buildings that are getting blown up, people that get caught in the crossfire. But here's the best part. We take $300 million and we lend it to them. They take the $300 million and go right back to us and buy from private sector the bullets, the bombs, the drones, all the stuff they need. That goes to the war machine of the US, those people that own stocks in Raytheon and all those other companies. So those guys are getting rich on taxpayer dollars. Then we send the munitions, we send the bombs back over to Russia or to the Ukraine. The Ukraine doesn't aim it at the front lines where the Russian soldiers are. They're not doing that. They're sending them 900, 1,500 miles into Russia and bombing the oil refineries. They're bombing places where they make things that competes with the United States so that they can't fulfill their contracts with other parts of Europe. And then those other parts of Europe have to now buy who has the oil available, which is us and our friends. So we use American tax dollars to make the guys, the less than 1% of the US stockholders, rich by buying stuff that kills people here. We send it there and then they shoot it at the oil refinery, so they have to buy, the same group of people owns the oil too, and they have to buy their oil. That's what Zelensky's involved in. He knows that. He's just doing what he's told by a bunch of people that are higher ranking than him that may not even be in the military, that just kind of run the show. BlackRock, places like that. So know what you're dealing with while they try to paint you this picture of this poor guy and how he's trying to run this country. This guy's just as big a piece of shit as all the rest of them. He is. I'm sorry. That's who he is. He's a puppet. He has no say. He's an idiot. Put a shirt and tie on. It wouldn't matter what you put on him. He's going to be the same idiot that was doing stand-up comedy 10 years ago before anyone decided to place him as president of the Ukraine. At least get a scientist, get a high-ranking government official, or somebody to go in there. But this clown, there's a reason why they don't invite him to meetings, because he's an idiot. That's why. So, sorry to break your bubble about this guy. I don't have a lot of respect for him. I don't think that he belongs in that position. And I think if they had an election right now, in the democracy that's supposed to be the Ukraine, he'd get the boot quick. They don't like him anymore over there. But again, that's just my opinion. But if you're going to turn around and you're going to look and you're going to criticize the president of the United States for going into Alaska and trying to make some type of resolution, because at the end of the day, that's not our boys being killed over there. It's not. It's not. It's Russian and Ukrainian boys and girls being killed. And that's a shame and a travesty no matter what it is. So as the great leader that he is, he's going over there and he's trying to make a deal. Everyone says he's kissing Putin's ass and he's serving the master and all this other crap. He doesn't have to do this. He's got lots to worry about at home. He's got lots, but he's a doer guy. And he's over there trying to make it right. What do we gain? What do we really gain if there's peace over there? We lose contracts that we're supplying the Ukraine right now from some fat cats. We'll pick a fight somewhere else. We'll find another war to fight. Watch those guys that control the war machine here. They'll find a reason for somebody to drop a bomb on somebody to pick a fight. Hey, what did you say? What did you say? What did you say? You want to step outside? And the game would be on, and they'll send them helicopters and Bell and Northrop and Boeing, and all of them will all make money. Oil, the whole bit. Do you ever notice that we're always in an excursion somewhere, just not on our home turf? The only time we've ever been on our home turf was when the Japanese were stupid enough to bomb Pearl Harbor. And if you want to count knocking down the World Trade Center, but that wasn't a war, that was a terrorist action. We don't fight wars on our turf. We don't want that over here to inconvenience us. Who wants to be late for work when we can go to South Vietnam? Or we can go to Iraq or Iran next, or whatever. We'll just go over there and we'll send our boys over there and keep the machine going. Ooh, the dogs heard something. When both dogs alert, especially the big guy, that means something bad's going to happen in the backyard. And until they see my 150-pound English Mastiff, they don't know what's coming. So that's my summary on Putin and Trump. I think it's a first step of many. It's not going to end in this next volley. And I understand Zelensky's bringing all kinds of other leaders from other countries. They've offered protection to Zelensky. They'd offered him NATO-like protection in the Ukraine. It's just not going to be a NATO property where you put forces and planes and tanks and stuff on that property. So that's not going to happen. And that was promised to Putin that it would never happen. So I'd expect that Putin's never going to put up with anything like that. We're going to have to figure out, and streamline it. We'll have to streamline it and make it nice, and we will. I believe that President Trump is a great deal maker and negotiator, and he's going to make sure that this job gets done. It just may take longer than everyone's so used to him knocking it out in 2-3 calls or a quick meeting that they're spoiled now. So now they're going to criticize that he didn't make a deal in one trip to Alaska. It's so stupid. It's ridiculous. It's time. You know what time it is at the end of every show, and I'm going to go ahead and start right away with the Lord. Thank you so much, God. We love you and we praise you, and we appreciate the protective hand that you put over our lives, Lord, and the guidance that you continue to give us. And God, please have these world leaders. Please have President Zelensky and Putin and Trump meet with these other world leaders and come up with some type of resolution that adds up to peace. All that really matters, Lord, is that we don't take the lives of innocent young men and women in war. Nothing good comes from war, Lord. So we ask that cooler heads prevail, and that for our soldiers, Lord, I say, thank God that we live in the United States of America, and then thank God for those men and women that keep us safe. We love you, and we pray for you today and every day, that you will be protected under the shield of Jesus Christ Almighty. In your name we pray, amen. Amen, everybody, amen. And it is the beginning of a new week. lots of exciting things going on for me this week. I got a ton of stuff that I'll report into you. No viewer mail today. I skipped right over it because I wanted to get right into this Putin-Trump thing. And I hope that I touched a little bit on and gave you a little bit of information that you can, man, if it smells funny, if it smells bad, and it looks bad, it's probably bad. So we got to end what's going on that affects our country. We got to look after our boys and girls. And we got to end this thing in Ukraine. So I don't think that anyone, let me make sure you understand something. I don't think invading any country is a good idea. I'm not sure what choices they gave because Clinton and his administration did not uphold the promises that they made to Putin about the Ukraine becoming a NATO property, a member of NATO. So I'm not saying I don't see any other resolution than what Putin did. Certainly, I think that there was a bargaining table to come to and a way on a world stage to do this without having to invade. But nevertheless, Clinton and his boys just railed Putin and Russia. They did. They didn't care. Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton. I remember being at a roast, and I'll end with this, a roast for my brother Alec. And they brought in, Robert De Niro, me and my brother Billy. And as a surprise guest, Bill Clinton walked out, and the Secret Service guys were kind of stashed all around. And we were in New York, where, it's not exactly the most safe city with the number of people. And anyway, I remember standing there looking at him. He was, giving his little speech about Alec and Alec's support and what he thought of Alec and blah, 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 blah. Alec doing Trump, And I remember thinking, man, if I could have this guy alone in a room for like 2 hours. And I was allowed to make him talk. The things this guy, he and his administration did, the number of people that just vanished or had mysterious heart attacks or, murdered in a Starbucks, all of them about to roll over on Hillary and Bill and his administration and things they knew. And you can't write a script like this. You can't write a script, but you know what? It's out there for you to see. I'm not the one that's, bringing it to your attention for the first time or anything else. What's scary is we just accept it now. Like we don't even ask anymore. We don't ask questions. No one cares. They don't care. We just accept way below moral standards, Christian standards, Buddhist standards, Jewish standards, whatever. We accept terrible behavior from our leaders. We don't care anymore what they represent, what they are, who they steal from, who they kill. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's sad. It's really sad. But I think we're getting closer to a compass that we can live with. I think that a lot of the waste and the theft is ending. I think you're going to see a lot of really dirty politicians and people get exposed in this next year. I'm not really sure 100% what we can do about it, particularly if there are people that were presidents at the time. There's laws now that protect them from being prosecuted. But you're going to see a real change in the legacy of certain people. They're going to go down with the declassification of files as really scumbags, that participated in some really crappy stuff that you would have thought, man, I could have sworn he would never do that. He would never do that. This guy would never do what they're saying. And they have proof of all of it. There's congressmen and senators that have blatantly stole hundreds of millions of dollars through insider trading, through changing laws that they voted for that affected whether that stock would go, that didn't give a crap about your well-being. There's going to be stuff that's going to come out about fires that were started in certain states that left hundreds and thousands of people homeless. They did it on purpose. They did. It was a real estate deal. You're going to see a lot of terrible stuff come true. And you know what? I'm going to end every show I do praying for those people, that God forgives them and allows them to come to heaven, because I wouldn't have them at my house for dinner, for sure. God bless you, and I will see you on Friday.